Hello, my name is Justin Smith. I'll be speaking about my research paper over the business relations within New Amsterdam and how individual businesses interacted with one another within the court system. For my research paper, I focused primarily on the court records of New Amsterdam and to see how the businesses interacted with one another, which there's many cases about businesses, whether it be merchants, traders, uh, masons, uh, bakers, whatever. Um, I also used the court records of Fort Orange to see if, as a comparison, to see if Fort Orange and New Amsterdam had similar cases or if they were fairly different. Um, I also used the laws and ordinances of New Netherlands and New Amsterdam to see how the court system worked to get a full picture of how things were supposed to go down, how what ordinances affected business people and merchants and everything. Um, for my uh, secondary literature, I used Bevivek, which was a book written by Gianni Vinema, where he focused on how different types of business people, such as bakers, artisans, merchants, blacksmiths, used help from travelers from Patria and other settlement towns, and how they did multiple businesses and how uh, travelers helped their business. I also used The Colony of New Netherland by Jaap Jacobs to see how he viewed business relations and interactions, which he focused more on how uh, trade relations were between Patria and New Netherland as a colony, and focus more on sectors such as the Atlantic Ocean and the Caribbean, and just the trade between the big groups. I also used a article by Simon Middleton called "How the Bakers Bake No Bread," uh, how the bakers came to bake no bread. And he focuses on how the bakers tried to establish themselves within the colonial city hierarchy in uh, in spite of not having certain leisures that they had in Patria, such as guild and uh, pre-established notions. And finally, I used Revisiting New Netherland, uh, and I focused on a chapter by Dennis J. Micah, where uh, he focused on business relations as similarly to Middleton. Uh, as far as my findings for the research, I found that within the individual cases, there was a very noticeable um, equality between people of different genders, people of different socioeconomic standing. So men and women were treated equal with each other. Uh, Business owners and workers were treated with equality, and it seemed fairly progressive for the time. As far as the context of my paper goes, I focused on individual business relations and as they related to gender and socioeconomic standings, and what types of cases were litigated within the court system. So I broke down the court cases into rich versus poor, men versus women, women versus women, wage disputes, lost wages, labor disputes, and disputes over trade. As far as the questions go that I attempted to answer, I wanted to find information on. The first one was how is gender treated within the court. Um I also wanted to know how people were treated across socioeconomic lines, and what sorts of cases were litigated in New Amsterdam, and how did they compare to Fort Orange. As far as for my findings on the first one, like I said, men and women were treated with equal standing within the court. Uh, for example, there were cases between women and how they had different trade and debt, how they treated credit and everything. Uh, there's another case involved a woman standing in for her husband, and she was going against the man, and the court took her word as the sovereign word of her husband. As far as the second one goes, there were cases that involved uh, business owners and their workers, and it was interesting to see that if the worker was in the right, oftentimes the majority of the time that every time that I saw, the court came in favor of the person who was in the right, who provided the best evidence. Uh, so there were many cases that the court found in favor of the worker rather than the business owner. Uh, Also, for the final question, what sorts of cases were litigated? I mentioned there were wage disputes, and there were over how much someone should be paid or whether they were underpaid or overpaid, lost wages or back pay. There were many cases about workers who had their contract severed before they finished their time, and so they took the business owner to court to try and get the money that they had been promised on the contract, which many times the court found in favor of the worker. Uh, there were labor disputes where someone would do work and then they would have like a credit line, but uh, the debtors wouldn't pay back in time, so they would take them to court. And there was a couple of cases where the debtors mentioned that they didn't feel that the workers did the enough labor to justify the amount they paid, or there was a case where they claimed that the worker had done more damage than they had done repairs or work for them. Um, as far as how that related to Fort Orange, in Fort Orange, the courts tended to have more cases over land disputes and construction disputes. For example, there were cases over how land should be used, how it should be utilized, whether it should be have construction put on it, like houses or stores or whatever, or whether it should be used as for agricultural reasons. There are also disputes over how certain buildings should be used, whether the builder had say or whether the owner had say. Um, and like I said, the focus of the paper was the equality between gender and socioeconomic levels, and how different cases were arranged between businesses. And I guess that's everything.